great honor and privilege to speak to the parents of the great Ramakrishna School, Central School. I've been asked to speak about the self-confidence and self-esteem, how to have more self-confidence and self-esteem in kids, and how parents can help them out in bringing out this thing. So let me start with one of the initial stories. I mean, some personal story. Long back, maybe during the mid 80s, I was part of this Interact club in a school. I was studying my 8th standard at that point of time, and I wanted to be part of any organization. During the school days, you all know that kids, as a kids, we always would like to take a break from the class and wanted to go out and bunk the class, or maybe take permission and hang around in the school, not necessarily interested in attending the classes. The screen is still on the. Why do we need to have a screen share, Sajid? I think you can switch that off, please. Yeah, thank you. All right. So I was wanting to be part of any of these extracurricular activities, so I've decided to go with one after the other. So I wanted to be part of NSS or NCC, but those are all things which requires a lot of hard work. You need to get up early in the morning, do a parade and all of that. Then I was actually looking at another organization, which is basically this Interact Club, which is part of the Rotary movement. And they give a lot of opportunity to get into a lot of training programs, leadership training programs, self-confidence training program. I attended some interesting camps like Rotary Youth Leadership Award, RILA, and things of that sort. So when I joined in this Interact Club, I went back home and I told my parents that I'm actually going to be joining a club which is called Interact Club. So my parents are basically from traditional business backgrounds. They don't know much about club, and those days it was too early. And my father was not very okay with it. He thought the club is something where people go drink and play cards and things like that. So he was not very keen that I should be part of this. So I said, okay. I mean, I didn't tell them that I've joined. I've joined. I went ahead and joined, and I started doing a lot of projects. So we we did a lot of projects in terms of tea plantation, doing the bullseye on the street in vehicles. And one of the very interesting projects at that point of time that we were part of was a zebra crossing. That means the road, there was a zebra crossing. We were doing that in front of St. Francis Convent in Trichy Road those days. All of us were in our t-shirts saying that we love Coimbatore, and that Interact Club logo, everything was there, and we were in that particular project. So this particular news came in all the newspapers, and saying that the kids of schools, that they are trying to help the police and trying to, help the traffic and all of that sort. So this came in all the newspapers. So I took this newspaper and went and told my parents, this is what we do in the club. It is not something that we think about club. So from that day on, my parents had given me a lot of confidence, and they said, you do whatever you wanted to do. So they didn't even interfere in anything after that I did. So after my 10th standard, after my 10th standard, I went to 11th. They didn't ask me which group I wanted to study. And post which I did my BSc in computer science. They didn't tell me anything whether I should do or not to do. And I went on to become a Rotaract member. I went on to become a Rotaract governor, then JCs and so many other things. So what I would like to tell the parents today is that today's generation, I'm talking about 80s, mid 80s, we don't have much exposure to a lot of things in terms of internet, all those connectivity and things like that. But today, the whole world revolves around all these high-tech gadgets. And the kids, they look at the world through this laptop, so they wanted to study whichever the universities, which are the kind of opportunities available. There are so many online courses available. They are much more informed than any of us, I'm sure. You all will agree with me. So at this point of time, what is that we need to do? As a parents, what is that we need to do? A student is studying in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. This is a very crucial age for them. They are in the prime of their age in terms of the adolescence. Whoever is trying to give advice to them, they always feel bad about it. They always like to, talk against those people who are giving advices and suggestions and all that. I'm sure as a parent, all of us would have gone through this many a times. So what I would like to tell you is that at this particular age, the one group which influences us is the peer group, the fellow students, fellow people that they are hanging out with. So this particular person always wanted to be up or at par with the other guy. So when somebody has got a mobile, he also wanted to have, or she also wanted to have. When somebody said, "Are you part of the WhatsApp group or a Facebook or LinkedIn?" And today the new trend is about Clubhouse. So are you part of any of these things? If you're not, then you are left behind. So that is something which is very, 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 very crucial for that particular group of people at that particular age. So they always seek recognition, not from the parents, not from the children, not from the teachers, not from the relatives, not from the society, but from the peer group. And if a peer friend says that you're great, your dress is good, you're awesome, then that's what is actually makes a lot of happiness to this particular group of students, rather than all the kind of goody goody stuff that we as parents say. So what we need to be really telling them is that this particular group of people, the peer pressure, whatever you call it as, the peer pressure has to kind of land in the positive side of it. In case if it doesn't land in positive side of it, that's when the student really gets terribly disturbed. They go through so much of negativity, they go through so much of depression, they sit alone separately, and you know the kind of stress that all of us are going through, sitting in front of computers so long. We all miss in the last 2 years people interaction. The more and more we interact with people, the more and more we hang around, the more and more we play out, we get a different kind of energy altogether. Whereas if you are in front of a system morning till evening, that gives a different kind of stress altogether. So this particular situation, if a peer group is actually not encouraging this particular person, he or she goes to a very, very deep negative mode. So we as parents and teachers, all those people who are right now, we should always look at them differently, because today everybody knows that you can't really have the approach of a carrot and stick, or have the kind of stick in your hand and start shouting at them, because they don't like this thing and they don't agree about it. Today if you have your teenage son or daughter, and I'm sure, if I don't know whether you've seen it, but many of the kids at this point of time, if you want, you can just go check their phones and what name they have actually stored your particular name. If you dial your own number, probably they would have stored it saying that the torture, kadupu, rowdy, all kind of words. They would have probably stored their name. Maybe it's your parents, it's not parents name, it is something that they would have stored the name on. தொந்தரவு வந்துருச்சு, pressure and these kind of stuff, because they look at you differently. They look at as if that you're actually going to block them. I want to give you another interesting story. Way back in the early 60s, I remember I admire a person who, of course, he passed away recently, a person by name Jack Welch. Jack Welch was considered to be one of the best managers, CEOs of the whole world at one point of time, of the millennium itself. He was the former CEO for this company called GE. GE is considered to be one of the biggest companies, General Electric, and this company was actually started by Thomas Alva Edison. It was earlier called as Edison Electric Company, way back about 120, 130 years back. So GE is one of the topmost company. Their turnover is much higher than country's GDP. When Jack Welch, what is so special about this Jack Welch is actually he came out of in the early 70s. He came out of this institution called MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston. He came out and he went into this company as a management trainee, and he started working in the factory for some time and go on and on and on and on, and eventually became the CEO. And once he became the CEO, he turned around the company manifold, and the kind of a profits that he generated was almost about 100 to 130, 140 times more when he actually retired from that company. So the question that I'm going to actually talk about is the kind of a story which he shares in his book called Straight from the Gut. What is the story? When he was a young boy in a hockey match at the school that he played, he lost. He lost and he was feeling so bad about it, and he was totally upset about it. And one of the reasons for him to fail is that he kind of messed up in some part of the playing, and he missed a couple of good chances. So he went back home and he started crying, and he said, I don't want to go to the school, I don't want to see my peers, I don't want to see my friends, and all of that. So their parents was actually so upset about it, and his mother, who was actually very instrumental in all kind of support that he got. And he says in that particular book, and that particular day has actually changed his entire life. His mother went to him and said, it's okay to fail. It's absolutely okay to fail. There's no problem at all. Unless until you know what is a failure, you definitely don't know what is a success. So he said, that particular message, that particular day really motivated me. And all the failures that I've gone through in my business life and my handling people in my kind of working around companies, buying companies, merging companies, taking all those success that I've seen in my life, it all goes to that particular lesson that I've learned on that particular day in terms of failing. So my request to all the parents is never ever compare your son with anybody else in your group, anything else. Every single person is individual by themselves. They have their own unique capabilities. They are different by whatever they are. So try and encourage them. Ask, tell them, teach them to accept the failures. Because today people are not at all interested in accepting failures. The moment some small thing happens, and especially with many of the parents, they have only single kids. They don't have siblings, so they have been pampered all across, and they've never seen flexibility. They have never fought for anything, because if they have a siblings, it's a different thing altogether. So the moment if they face some kind of a failure, they get into totally into an upset mode, and that particular thing is really pulling them down, and their whole life is going to be taken by extreme. Today, I'm very happy that there are a lot of startups are coming up. Parents wanted them to be part of the startup generation. I mean, people are looking at, if you're not getting into the startup, like you're an engineer, especially from some of the biggest schools like IIT, IIM, and all those institutions, you have startup cell, and people are part of startups. And every parents are now started realizing that it's okay to get into startup. And they started looking at people like Mark Zuckerberg and all those big guys who's actually made it big in whatever they are. So it's a good time to be alive. It's good time to be in the world at this point of time. There's so many things are happening up, and it's good time to be a student at this point of time. And we as parents would definitely encourage them. The world that we are seeing is totally different from the world that was in the past. So please encourage them. Uh, ask them to be more confident. Ask them to be having more faith in themselves. And it's okay. Tell them it's okay to fail, because that's what even the government is actually trying to come up with some policy, that you start a company, and even if it fails, it's okay. You don't have to pay back the money to the bank. So things like that are coming up in the way. So we as a country, we need to encourage people. The more and more you give confidence to people, at the time of failure, they bounce back, and that's when their confidence and self-esteem goes to the next level. At this point of time, I would like to thank Sajid for doing an amazing job. For the last 11, I mean, almost about 9 to 10 years now, Guruji started, and I've been associated with him right from the beginning. And I would like to really appreciate the kind of the growth that this company has done. I saw so many alumni in different best schools and colleges, B schools and IITs and all of that. They're all doing extremely good. Yesterday, I was actually talking to him for about 5-10 minutes to get some kind of a guidance for my daughter who just finished her 12th standard. Within 5 minutes, he was able to give so many options, so many opportunities, which is unheard of. Such a resourceful person, such a resourceful organization. And I would wish Guruji all the very best, and also this Institute Ramakrishna for having many best of the students. I'm sure they've already produced many of them for ages together now. And I wish this new school, I mean, I'm hearing it for the first time from Sajid yesterday, that some kind of a central school exists inside that college of Ramakrishna. I'm very happy to hear that, and I wish all the very best, all the students. And thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. Over to the MC.